let me quickly introduce myself. I'm the founder and CEO of LikeMinds, which is the software that powers communityhood. Communityhood is a community of about 1150 community builders today. And this roundtable format, is at least for the today's version, we're going to pick up, like we picked up a topic where we're going to talk about how to moderate your community like a pro. We have some pro guests with us. We'll introduce them maybe towards the later part of the roundtable. But I want to quickly jump on to some of the learnings that we have accumulated based on our research and talking to some of the other community builders. This is just a basic way to document some of the learnings and share it with everyone. The topic for today, like I said, is how to moderate your community like a pro. We very, very often when we build communities, especially as they scale, we see a lot of situations like these, right? There are people who are using cuss words. There is too much promotion happening. There is conflict and argument happening between members. Then members are spamming in different groups, channels, or even DMs. Now, as a community builder, we have to make sure that these things don't affect the DNA of the community. Because if too much of any of this is going to happen, I'm sure, just removing that member will not help. If you don't do anything for a prolonged period, a lot of members will not feel safe. A lot of other members will start feeling that the community manager doesn't care about their experience, and you can't let that happen. So that's where your moderation skills come in. These are few examples, but some of the things that we've seen community builders do when they're moderating any communities. The most important thing is to make sure that everyone's expectation is set while they onboard. So this is done by various ways where people have certain open guidelines. A lot of times these guidelines are shared in a welcome email or a welcome message by the community builders who onboard them. Then a lot of times people make sure that certain communities are done in a way where the members are approved before they get into the community. So that also is in a way helps in making sure that the community feels more safe and open. So for example, in my previous venture, I built a community of doctors where we had about 50% of total Indian doctors using it to discuss patient cases with each other. One of the biggest thing there that we did was to make sure that everyone who is registering and wanting access of the platform, we verified them whether they are a doctor or not. Now that was very, very important because doctors behave very differently when they know that it's a doctor only community versus an open community. So a lot of these things will matter a lot when you want to set the tone of your community. One other thing is it's always better, especially when the community is in early days, that you at least have a vision and values of the community that you very upfront tell to everyone. You may say that, hey, today, let's say some topic that you are discussing about or debating about might not be relevant, but because this is part of the vision, we are open to adding this kind of conversation in our community. So not every time you'll envision all the cases. So for example, sometimes people start talking about things which are not directly related to the topic of the community. Now that may be a borderline case where you may allow that or may not allow that. So it's always good to have some of these vision and value statements very, very clear in front of your members. And of course, have some rules written. You should definitely lead by example. When you are building these communities, when you are moderating these sessions, and any of the conversations in the community. A lot of times, you will say, "Hey, no promotion allowed," and the next day you will start promoting one of the things that you might have sort of stopped the member to promote. So those things are generally, advice that you should not be engaging in those kind of behavior, and never take things for granted, because a lot of times members would just lose trust if that happens on a prolonged period. Enforcing community code of conduct is something which is very important. You need to make sure that the community guidelines are properly communicated, not just while onboarding, but let's say if there is a conversation happening and you decide to delete or moderate that conversation, bring up the community guideline there and reinforce it to your users that this is something that is important. Then have a very clear escalation path, where especially as you scale, it becomes important to communicate that this is level 1, level 2, or this is how the code of conduct is there. Initially, the members will, at least one member will have to report, let's say, this is one example of a code of conduct, that at least one member has to report a bad behavior, then only we will take an action against it. That is one example, but you can define your own code of conduct depending on how you are planning to build the community, and that can evolve over time. And then, this is a very simple policy where you educate first, don't moderate in the first go, educate people once or twice or as many times you've done that, then go on moderation, start, let's say, muting them, deleting some of their content. And if that happens very often again, then you remove those members. And then there are a lot of nuances around how to remove, what kind of communication you should do. We'll go deep into our open session when we open the roundtable on this. So this is one example of, how things are done. There are a lot of platforms out there today who specifically allow, you would have seen this on Reddit, you would have seen this on Facebook, where there are sections around rules, guidelines. Why these platforms are specifically promoting them? Because it's important. Sometimes we initially would feel it's not important, but my thumb rule is, as soon as you feel it, you have lost a way where you can connect with all the members one-on-one on a regular basis, this becomes the most important thing to do at that time. So maybe not on day one, but at least some bit of it on day one will always help, at least in terms of mission statement, vision statement. Then a very nuanced thing is how to filter spam in a community. Now, today, and this is a big challenge, and we have one of the community builders from a large social network with us today. We'll go into deep on this, but filtering spam at scale is such a big challenge, especially with all the policies coming in and all the rules enforcing and putting liability on the community admins. Today there are tech solutions that are coming, and we spoke to some of these community builders, and I'll present one of the examples after this, where today there are good tools out there where they help you detect certain keywords that you don't want to be put in your community. Those keywords can be automatically detected and flagged to the community builders. In fact, there is more and more AI being built. There are startups out there, I've spent time speaking to a couple of them, where they will use AI to detect whether a message is a promotional message or not, to detect whether there is a hate in it or not. So some of these tools are very, very helpful to use when you are moderating or wanting to filter out spam at scale. Now, the other thing that you must do is, especially if it's not at scale, make sure that at least you may choose to not take an action, but let's say if certain kind of behavior has been allowed, let's say if someone sent a promotional message and you are like, it's okay, let's allow it for the first time, but at least you should know that you've done it, because you're setting a precedence to allow that kind of behavior. So yeah, and then of course these are some types of spams that we were able to identify. So yeah, there are tools out there. If you're at scale, use those tools. If not, then at least note down your response to a certain kind of unwanted behavior. So this is the case study sort of response we got from one of the community builders at previously at MPL. So this is exactly what they were doing, the in-app automated spam detector, where certain kind of hashtags and certain words were automatically flagged, and then moderators would get a notification from backend on a dashboard or elsewhere, and then they could immediately take actions accordingly on what they want to do on those hashtags. Of course, you would imagine MPL is at that scale. That's why they need some of these tools. Similarly, a very, very common thing that MPL and some of the other community builders were also talking about was, very interestingly, you set examples. You would have heard that in school. Setting example for a teacher is very important. When you're teaching in a class, that's exactly what a lot of community builders do. They and not like, because they don't want to sort of affect feelings of even a single member. A lot of times people create dummy accounts, and they do some wrong behavior through that dummy account, and then the dummy profiles are publicly sort of embarrassed or blocked to set examples. So this is very interesting way to do it without affecting even a single member's feeling. But having said that, sometimes you may want to have to do the same thing for a real profile as well. So be prepared for that. But if you're not, at least do this hack, which will help you a lot to at least set the tone of the community. Then one other thing that MPL had was, they had a lot of hidden moderators or ambassadors who would be sort of in a way rewarded internally to report bad behavior, because they were at such a scale. It was not humanly possible to go through all the messages by the community builder, right? So they had these members who would report bad behavior, and then they know what messages to look for. So yeah, these are some of the things that MPL used to do in their way to moderate these community behaviors. One other thing which is very, very important when you're managing a community is to manage conflicts. Lot of times, for reasons even beyond your control, people will have conflicts on, let's say, talking about political organizations, or let's say having a contradicting belief on a specific thing. Or more commonly, let's say if you are building a community where you're also selling a product or a service, people will have conflict on, and very often, you'll see people reporting, hey, I'm not satisfied with the service, or hey, I'm not happy with the current form of whatever, let's say if it's a course or a SaaS service, people will report that. And so the conflict can be between members, or the conflict can be between the member and a brand, right? So when it's between members, there are certain, again, like some of the ground rules that you've already set up, some of the initial charter documents or public guidelines that you've already created. They come in very, very handy, because you can always tell them that, hey, this was already written. It's almost like how technically the terms and conditions work in any agreement. So literally your community guidelines become a part of your terms and condition, and especially if it's a large platform like a NPL or a Kura, I'm sure these become an integral part of the terms and conditions. But even if you're not that big, you must think of it like terms and conditions, because a lot of times when you, let's say, remove a member, they will badmouth you on Twitter, and you don't want that, right? You want some of those members to know why they've been removed. So even if they're bad mouthing, at least you can say, we spoke about it. We tried to make sure that, you understand the DNA of the community, but you're not able to understand. So this is very, very important. And then, don't be afraid to take small actions at least, so small things like, muting a community or muting a group to make sure that at least the negativity immediately cuts down, and then you ping those members privately and understand the point of view for both of them. So yeah, ban is definitely possible, but try to reason with everyone so that they don't feel that you're not hearing them out and just removing them from the. So these are a few examples of how, I don't know whether this is seeding or a real behavior, but we were able to find some of the threads on Reddit where people very specifically report content. So for example, this is a post where a user has reported that this is a weird content to the admins or the moderators. So a lot of platforms build tools around user reportings. So Reddit is one. I'm sure almost every good community platform does that. If you are building an in-app community, then this is something that you should definitely think of. If you're not going on a third-party platform. And if the third-party platform doesn't have these things, you should ask for it for sure. And then, whatever is the behavior. So if you see here, it says that you've been banned from participating in this, but you can still view to this, but you won't be able to post. So I'm sure this is one of the automated response, but you can set these different types of automated responses on what action to do when some kind of behavior happens. And over time, you start, like initially you start manually, but over time, you build templates, then you copy paste these messages. And once you feel that very, very often you are just copy pasting, then it's the best time to reach out to your tech team and say, help me out to automate this thing. Or maybe use a tool which automatically helps you do it. So yeah, the next section, which a lot of people asked when we were curating this topic, was how to increase trust within the community. Of course, the answer is, moderate your community, make them feel that this is a safe space, but don't over moderate as well. Don't make them feel that this is some place that they cannot even express themselves. So make them feel welcomed. Give them control to do things. So for example, the Reddit example I was showing, telling them that, hey, you have the power to report. Especially at scale, this is one of the biggest hack, I would say, because this makes the end user feel good as well. And it solves a lot of problem for you that you're not seeing every content, you're only seeing the content which is reported by the members. Then do a lot of one-on-one conversations to manage conflicts. Try to, a lot of times, you will be in a dilemma that this is a situation. For example, I'll go back to the same thing. Let's say if people start talking about Harry Potter, if you're talking about an example of, let's say, making it playful, and then Harry Potter, that whole broom game discussion starts coming and you don't know what to do. I think even if you're an individual community builder, talk to some of your top 3-4 members and understand what is the right thing to do in those cases. Because if you seek to those others and you align them, if there is a conflict, you can always ask them to, hey, can you please intervene and back me up here? So this is another hack that a lot of people use. So involve your members in the point where the charter is not clear. So yeah, these are some of the things. Do appreciate your members when let's say someone manages a conflict for you. It's almost like make a separate inner circle for moderation if possible. This is just a summary of whatever we've spoken so far. Make clear guidelines, take action, don't sit on it, and explore a lot of new tools which can help you do it at scale. What you don't or cannot do is maintain silence. You cannot also over moderate, and you cannot exclude your team from doing moderation. It's not a individual person, who can moderate everything. A lot of times there are members from your team who can help you moderate if you are the only person managing the community. And then involve members. You can involve them as a formal volunteer, or you can give them a specific title to these members in your community. So a lot of larger platforms would call these guys moderators upfront, like Reddit does that. Give them content moderation rights. And you can do that at different levels. So like maybe you can say, hey, these are like level 1 moderators who can delete certain messages as well. And then there are level 2 moderators who can just flag these messages, right? So these are some of the things that you can do to engage members in your moderation plans. Last 2-3 slides, I wanted to share, although I think this is one area where we've been because we are a small community and like our major focus is events, we've not seen a lot of people spamming and very small places, like very less frequently we've had to intervene. One thing that we've done well there is we don't allow anyone to join that community. We make sure that at least community builders are joining that community. So we do a ref check every time. We don't, like, we've rejected certain clients who wanted to get onboarded to test out the platform, but they didn't fill the profile properly. So the community team has a clear guideline. You can reject anyone because they don't know whether this person is a client who is trying to onboard and test out the platform. But we've been very clear, we'll not onboard someone unless they at least have an intent to learn about community building. So this is something we've done. We make sure that in our first onboarding time only, we send them community guidelines. We take actions when someone violates the rules, especially on the promotion side. This is one thing that we have done, and a lot of community builders also do it. They give a separate channel or a separate space to people to promote themselves, so that everyone who wants to promote just engages in that space, and the others don't get affected through it. So because of all that, we've almost been in self-moderation, other than once in a while we have to delete certain messages, and because of the platform capabilities, we allow that thing to happen on the platform, that we can delete certain promotional messages. And this is the example I was talking about, where we have created a specific channel to allow members to promote their content in it. Hi Neha. Neha is from Quora. She's been working with Quora and managing their community for a while now. And before that, she was community builder at Baby Chakra. So, we thought it'll be good to know how Quora does the community moderation part, and maybe I can ask follow-up questions, Neha. But like, what's your sort of broad view on what's the exact process of moderation that Quora follows? Over to you, Neha.
Hi Nipun, hi everybody. Very excited to meet all of you, and would have loved to know what exactly each of you do. If you can just drop in the comments a little brief about yourself, I'd really love to know and get introduced to each one of you. Thanks, Nipun, for the introduction, and I don't know how many of you know about Quora, but in case you do not, it's a platform where we believe that knowledge is out there and it should be shared. And our mission is to share and grow the world's knowledge. And as a result, we have tons of people who come on the platform, either asking questions that are there in their mind or seeking answers to the questions. And I think a bunch of you may have heard about, a lot of people kind of getting a lot of their answers at Quora, because I think what makes Quora very unique is that people are sharing their experiences or their expertise in a particular topic. And that makes it very credible as a platform, right? If today I am somebody who's who's an expert in, say, fountain pens, and if somebody is asking a question about that, and I jump in and share my thoughts, that answer is super credible. But anyway, because anything and everything can be shared on Quora, in the sense people can share anything around any topic on Quora, and we do not have a gatekeeper. right? We do not have a mechanism where we are verifying, authenticity of a profile, right, or users. And the fact that we allow people to use pseudonyms, or even create multiple accounts, and we have a very solid reasoning behind why we allow that to happen. But that also presents itself with issues around all the areas that Nipun already covered, and perhaps a bunch of challenges that each of you perhaps face in your respective communities. I'll kind of give you some bit of context around how we started, although I wasn't around. But what little that I have heard about, the context around how did we begin moderation. Today, obviously, our systems are much more evolved. Where moderation is a combination of man and machine. And as we speak, we only get more smarter with our machine learning, and we're kind of making our language models learn a lot more with huge amounts of data, and even training them to moderate effectively. However, when we began, I remember, my ex-boss who pretty much, set up this entire process was, they literally sat down and thought about, what policies have to be kind of put together, and they had created a volunteer team to help them report content, and even moderate content, right? He had so many stories to tell, but that's for another time. But that's how pretty much we started, right? We began with with identifying with identifying why did we want to moderate, what is our objective of moderating, what is our community all about, how does it behave, why does it behave a certain way, what matters to the community, what are some of the things that we should encourage, what are the do's and the don'ts. But I think the underlying theme that I feel around moderation is, while moderation can feel very, very reactive, I think it is important that we're thinking about how can we be more proactive when it comes to content on the platform, right? I mean, while yes, reactive actions will have to be kind of be put in place, and that's the reality, I guess. However, how can we encourage positive reinforcement? How can we be more proactive when it comes to creation of content? How can we encourage more role modeling of behaviors, as opposed to kind of always being reactive, right? So I think that's a thought that each of us could that's a piece of thought that you should kind of be thinking about. And there are ways in which you can do that, right? And we can get into some of the ways in which you can do that. And that's pretty much bread and butter also for us as community builders. But yes, over a period of time, when we started learning a lot more about how people were behaving and how, content was evolving on the internet, what are some of the trends of, content that we were seeing, trolling in itself evolves, every couple of months, right? People find different ways of trolling. So I think the underlying theme is that we began with something, right? But ensured that we were evolving our document all the time. We were listening to a lot of feedback. we were spending a lot of time on the product as community builders, so that we identify emerging themes, especially when it comes to various geographies and different cultures, right? It is very important that we're very mindful of some of the differences there, and we're incorporating some of those nuances in the policies that we have. And the biggest part about moderation at Quora is that we empowered the users to obviously to report content and help us moderate content as well. But I think user reporting of content in its own self is a huge piece of discussion, and I think it's worth a separate session in its own self, because it has a lot of nuances itself. How should you empower your users? What should you empower them to report? So if I may feel that somebody is not behaving appropriately on the platform, but is it something which is policy violating as per the policy, right? And if that content is not moderated because it does not violate policy, there's a whole host of different expectations that you have to deal with when it comes to the users, because they feel that it is policy violating, but we do not feel it is policy violating, and then there's a whole debate that goes on over there as well. So I think I think the challenge today is that when two people disagree with each other, and when they are doing it face to face, there are no 100 people around them who are listening to that disagreement with all probability, right? Or that debate or their heated argument that they are having. And perhaps it is just the two of them in the room, or maybe just 2 to 3 people more. But think about human behavior. If it is just 2 people, I think they perhaps, there could be various outcomes of that heated debate. One of them being, agree to disagree and move on. However, when even in a face-to-face discussion, there are 10 people in the room, there are egos that come into play, right? And it gets extrapolated to, X times, when it comes to social media, because these are conversations that are happening in an open platform, and people do not want to give in, right? They don't want to be seen as somebody who's lost the battle, right? So that is where these very very human behavior nuances kind of come into play. So yeah, I know I'm talking a lot and I think I lost my chain of thought as well to a certain extent, but I'll just stop myself right now. There's so many things that can be discussed around this, but yeah, just a bit of context around how we think about moderation. I know I have not touched upon a bunch of things that I can touch upon, but yeah.
So we were sharing about this sort of case study where Growth School was running this course which had an amazing rating of 9.5, but over time you realized it became less relevant for the next batch, and because a lot of negative feedback was coming from the members, and the members were saying that this is outdated, and there was some kind of cry about things there. So how did you as a community manager come moderator handle that situation?
Yeah, so before we even come to that, I'll come to how do we design it so that people have more context on how we basically run these things, so we understand what is the feedback that we need to focus upon and how basically we need to move forward. So we run cohort-based programs, and for every new cohort that onboards, we have a certain set of community leaders. Now, these are a set of people who are from our other programs, 3 of them or 4 of them, a bunch of mix. And some of them are from the new batches that are onboarding. So we have these 6 or 7 group of people who basically help us lead the program. The old ones acts as subject matter experts, help us in supporting experiences, and the new ones help us bridge the gap between the learners and the growth school community team. Now this basically, as I mentioned, one helps in subject matter expertise by the previous members, solving doubts on a daily basis. So we are able to optimize the mentor's time foundation. Second is new folks who come in, they come up with new ideas, and every batch that onboards, we have seen that they behave very differently from the another cohort. So that's why we like to keep a mix of these people. So they help us with new ideas or new happenings in the industry. So to curate the engagements, some activities that we do for them in a better way. Or just so that it looks more relevant in today's aspect and not it was what was 6 months ago. Third, what happens, as I mentioned again, is acting as mediators between team and learners to pass on the feedback on a weekly basis. Because our programs are 8 weeks, 12 weeks, we use the lingo of week. That's why we have this weekly sync between community leaders and our team to understand, okay, where this is going. Is the content still really helpful if you're in the second or third or whatever batch you are? And is it still relevant? Because a lot of programs that we do are based, for example, digital marketing. There are daily new advancement coming into the place on a monthly basis, sometimes on a 6 monthly. Last time we had something for iOS update where Facebook was not allowing to data track. So to understand if the content one is still relevant, because there are 2 layers of content. One is recorded content that they have to go through, and second is the live teaching calls with mentors. So how can we, curate better experiences in terms of the evergreen model of content, which is not going to change, we record it, and all the updates, advancement, and the new strategies that come in, mentor, come live and teach. So to make a good mix of the journey of learning experiences better, we have these weekly sync with community leaders, and that's where we understand, okay, this is going nice. We have some certain community feedback mechanism. Are you achieving your outcomes? For example, when we onboard a cohort, we have a skill assessment in place from program to program level. For example, if you want to become a digital marketer, do you have an experience in copywriting? Do you have an experience in running ads? Do you have an experience in SEO? We have these certain skill assessment in place, and as and when we move forward on a weekly basis, we attach that skill to specific week's content. If you go through the second week's content on SEO, your skill should be increased or enhanced by 30%. So when we have this call, we try to check all the pointers. Is it really happening or not? If not, what can we do? What are the other activities or initiatives or projects which you would like to have? So this specific example that we are talking about, now that we all have the context, what happened is this was very specific to a marketing program. I would not very blatantly tell what was it. So what happened is, just when we launched the first batch of the program, it was going very well. I guess we had close to 200 people in first batch, which had a rating of 9.6. And we thought this program will fly. It will have a, good, we'll do at least 6 to 7 batches per year. But just in second batch, what happened is Google had a big release of updates in terms of UI, UX, and some functionalities in the backend. What happened is, and this was related to Google Play Store specifically, something related to App Store optimization, to be very specific. And now what happened is, when we onboarded the second batch, there were less number of people, not 200, but we had close to 70, 80 people joining in. But because the subject is very new and the audience is very niche, a lot of people knew what happened in niche subjects. What we have found is that a lot of people come with more expectations, and they have learned a lot of things already by self-learning these topics. So what happens is, whenever they come and join the program, which is very niche specific, if we are teaching App Store optimization, let's say in 6 weeks, they expect a lot of advanced strategies, which some of them might have already learned on YouTube, or in a span of their career of 6 to 7 years, they might have already done a lot of things. But because we are putting it in a structured way, they feel, yaar, itna impactful nahi hai. And then that was again not a big problem there, because it was still a structured, and we had good mentor on board. But what happened is, because of the technicalities and the UX changes, the content that was recorded was not relevant when the people were watching it. So 1 week was fine. They were still, theek hai, chalo, it has just started. Second or third week is where it started basically dipping down. We saw that very first thing by, people were not showing up. If there are 80 people, there were close to 25 people on a call. That's when we identified, okay, there's a problem. Now we need to identify what is it and drill down to what exactly people are thinking about it, or how can we basically solve it. And so that week, basically, we took a little break to understand each person, what is the problem. The general problem statement that came out is content is irrelevant, or basically it is, it is outdated, which is a normal comment in a lot of marketing programs. Even if you go, they say, yaar, theek hai, this strategy was used 2 years back, why are you teaching it still? But when you learn it as a track of the content that you have to go through, some things become essential. But specifically talking about the App Store one, so what ended up happening is, when we spoke to people, we thought that, okay, now content needs a reshoot, because we have taken a screenshots from Google Play Store, some from the backend, some from the email. So still, when we tried to convince, when there were still learning sessions on the go, but the most part of it, what they have to consume was these recorded bit of content. So they were not satisfied, definitely, and it was a cumulative, stand of community that we do not want to move forward if this is going to be in the next 4 or 5 weeks also. So I think that's when we took a break of 2 weeks, and we took this feedback to mentor. Okay, this is what's happening exactly. This is not we saying, okay, this is a problem. This is words of community that are learning from you. So then we both did again the research part again. Okay, what are the changes that have been happening? How should we go about it? Should we record the full content again? Should we just record that part, that bit again? Or should we have some guests coming in and teach? We had these 3 or 4 options open, and we did all of those, by the way. Not the full reshoot of content, but added the layer wherever it required the gap. But what we faced, the problem, I think moderation, I think we missed that part in the break, in the duration of that 2 weeks break. What happened is, we did very less activities in terms of engagements into the break period of that. What we normally do is, whenever we take a break in the cohort, we just pull in more community engagements or some projects we get them to finish, like a Diwali homework we used to get, in schools. So this time what we did is, because we were putting our heads just to make the content better, we missed some part of, because what happens is, if customers or learners are talking to each other about the same thing, which is negative, it just amplifies in a period of 2 weeks when you're not talking to them a lot. So we did that, but not a lot, I think, or maybe we were not able to figure out what's the right, frequency or way to do it, because we were also afraid that overdo to nahi kar denge. If we talk a lot, they will think, they are doing it because they are compensating for the other facts. So I think that is somewhere there was a little mismatch, and we had to, the second batch ended nicely, not with definitely a rating of 9.6 definitely, but people were satisfied, and that's what we aimed for after that incident. And that's why then we added a layer of one more content quality check in all of the cohorts right now that we have. So first batch, what happens is, it's a collaborative effort between learners and mentor to make the content. First, it was not. First, we used to record the content, show it, take the feedback, understand, what is better, and then create for the next week. Right now, it is a collaborative process. What happens is, before even we launch the content, we have 20-25 people to review it. The presentation decks or some level of, not the video content definitely, because that's what the end outcome is from the mentor. But we have these concepts or the line of content, the list of contents reviewed by community leaders of previous batches or the other program or the people in other domains, the program that they have taken. So which is now basically helping us to make the content better, and also to understand the process of how to basically take feedback and work on it with community level on a batch to batch basis and on a weekly basis, and how basically we want to draft a moderation policy around it if things are not going well. This is a very specific example we are talking about, right? Content not being good, which is very specific to education, or content being irrelevant. Now, if we talk about moderation in general, moderation has helped us. These kind of activities, what I'm saying, by onboarding community leaders, has helped us, take learners from passive to active state. What do I mean by that is, we have seen, for example, if there are 100 people who we want to onboard, 70 people come on board, and we know the activity level is just on a daily basis, we see 20 or 15 people being active. But when we have these cohort leaders or the community leaders who are there to fill the gap of questions which are being asked, so the people don't have to wait for the mentor to answer. We already have some experts or from other batches who can help you with marketing or any subject matter question that you have, or in terms of support also, because they know how we do things. So when they see more conversation going on and it is not the growth school team, that's when they see, okay, people are talking, I need to be active. So only one aspect of it. Second was, we were able to help people collaborate better in terms of when they talk, they come up with some ideas, and we acted as enablers of that. For example, okay, you want to do some session in your city, okay, how can we do that? Are you able to actually, thinking on the lines of taking an offline workshop or doing some meetup, or what is this that you're actually thinking? Can we help you in doing that? And now on the lines, we are still evolving a lot in the process, definitely. So now we have reached a conclusion in terms of onboarding processes that every cohort that we onboard should have an offline catch up wherever they are, not in terms of 50 people coming to Bangalore and meeting each other, but 5 people in Delhi, 5 people in Bombay, wherever you are. Let's start with offline connect. Let's start with a connection and not just with, okay, this is what's going to happen, and then now we'll start learning. Let's understand who we are as a people, wherever you are. And we have done this on an online basis as well, but we are seeing the offline engagements are definitely gaining more attention, and they're getting more referrals is the main point that we have seen. A referral in terms of opportunities, some freelance gigs, and also agency clients, etc. And third, the point that we spoke about, team was able to make the content better, not only for this, but next batches also. So we are able to review our content quality policies also. When should we do it? Should we do it once per batch? Once in 6 months, once in 3 months? What is the narrative what is the basically set frequency that we are looking at, or is there a set frequency we are looking at? And when these cohort leaders are talking to people, they have a sense of trust among them, and that's when they are able to open up with their deep desires that they are thinking. Desires, what I mean by that is they have come with a certain outcomes. Is there an expectations which we can actually fulfill, which may be a part of the curriculum or not? Is there something that they are expecting and it's not a part of the deliverables? What can we do with that? For example, in UX cohort, UX design program, what happens is, we never say, or we have never said, okay, mentor will help you with interview preparation. But what has ended up happening is mentor is by default, he's so active that he personally helps people on WhatsApp or on calls. And that program has at least, and this is not a bloated number, at least 80% of people who have finished the program have gotten jobs at good places. So this is the layer of personalization that mentor and team collectively adds, but that only happens when we identify, oh, this is a need. People are expecting, or they're looking in their heads, oh, if agar ye mil gaya to, my life will become better. So what are those aspects? If not actually promising that we'll do it, but we try to identify what actually can we do. And again, and I think that is also, that is part of the conversations which these leaders do with them. Because one of the things which I personally tell when we have these sync meetings is try to speak to at least one person on an individual level. Because previously, when we were a very small team, like 5 to 10 people, that's what I used to do personally. I know if people is active and active doesn't matter, but try to speak one customer or a learner on a daily basis to understand, one, why they are not active. If they are not, what are they liking? What are they not liking? What is the perception of the brand that you're creating? And now when we have these moderators on board, it is just deployed them. It's not like I don't do it. I still do it by my side, but still to get the whole sense of it, because community as a layer in growth school acts as branding also. I mean, a lot of companies that work also have a branding factor in community. But why we are able to do is because why we are doing it specifically is because we have not focused on the branding aspect of it. We have always been performance driven. When we say growth school is community led education, who knows it? Are we able to create the brand perception about that through the things that we are already doing? And first thing is how to do it. I'm also new at this. I have never done online communities. It's been 2 years or 3 years now. I have been into offline events management. I have done some international exhibitions, sports events. So education is new for me also. So to building out that feedback loop, understanding what do people want and what kind of people, do we want in the cohort. And and so these initiative of having leaders for every cohort has helped us feed the data back into the company into understanding this is what this batch wants. This is how we can fulfill it. And every batch, as I mentioned, behaves very differently. The first batch, I remember one of the marketing programs that we had gave a rating of 9.6 for the same 9.6 for digital marketing program. And they took it very nicely. And when we onboard the second batch, at the very first week, they said the content is very overwhelming. We need one more week to take that. And, and we were able to see that difference because that was difficult for us to identify to begin with, because, the targeting was same. The kind of people that we got in was exactly same. The persona was exactly same. But what we saw is these people who actually, bought the first program or were the part of first program were actually knowing what our brand does. And the new set of people that came in didn't actually know how we function. So then we made it a part of our onboarding process that everyone who comes in as a learner understands how growth school works. So it becomes better for them to allocate that time or manage their schedules accordingly so that they can get accustomed to the process that we have. I'm sorry if I'm taking the moderation and the policies part together.
No worries.
This is how basically we do things, and this is how we handle queue escalations. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks a lot for sharing. Just to summarize some of the things on the moderation bit, I think to solve the challenge, one of the biggest takeaway for me was you literally took a break. I think sometimes when there are such disruptive things happening, it's okay to communicate to the community that, hey, we are there for you, we will solve it.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, hey, give us some time, we'll solve it. By doing that, it sort of signaled to the community that you guys are determined and you guys are taking the feedback. Mm-hmm. The other big takeaway for me was, this whole ability to involve your alumni as community leaders, because probably that was the biggest reason why you were able to take feedback, build that trust that at least, the feedback will be received. Right. So having the ability to get feedback and then taking swift actions and communicating it properly would be what I would take away from this. Till then, thank you so much for patiently staying back. And we have our next session in the next week itself. We're going to talk a lot about aligning business goals with community goals with business goals, and how do you make members collaborate with each other. So till then, have a great rest of the week and see you very, very soon. Thank you. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and do not forget to subscribe. You can check out similar content by clicking on the videos on the right.